Terrain is one of the things in Minecraft that I personally struggle with the most. I'm definitely not an expert in terrain building, but this week I wanted to challenge myself and really try to make some nice terrain in the game. Once I had done this, I realized that I really couldn't let this terrain go to waste. I just had to build something on it. So, a fantasy castle, small village, and dragon sounds right up my alley. Let's get started with the building process. Starting with the castle gate. As usual with these castles, this is arguably one of the more important areas of the castle as it's the only entrance to this castle and it's the main area of defense. So 2 big, thick castle towers do the job here, and then I start planning out the rest of the castle perimeter. A large keep, lots more towers, and some more walls to connect everything together and keep it safe. This is a pretty small castle in terms of comparison to my other builds. Normally I go a little bit more large, but because this is such a big piece of terrain, I didn't want to shrink it down by adding a massive castle next to it. I just wanted something quaint and cute to go in my mountain area, and I think this castle definitely does the trick. This castle being a little bit on the smaller side actually helps me out quite a lot here, because I am trying to learn a little bit of different detailing, and although I'm still working in the usual fantasy style, I am trying to challenge myself a little bit here, doing a bunch of different types of details and a bunch of different roof shapes, and asking for lots of advice from my peers along the way. This is a big way that I learn how to build, taking small steps in the correct direction, rather than just doing one whole massive build that is completely different from my normal style. That would make me pretty uncomfortable, whereas this is a lot more manageable in terms of stress levels. Now we're just working on finishing up those final castle walls and towers. A big watchtower in the middle, and once this is complete, we're gonna focus on that big path winding down the mountainside. This is the only entrance up into the castle. The rest of the castle is completely surrounded by steep cliffs, so putting another gatehouse down here by this one entrance seemed like a really good option. And it also makes for a good option as a main centerpiece to this small little quaint farming village that I'm placing down here. This was so much fun to build, and once the village is good and underway, I come back up to the castle to add some final details and then work on adding atmosphere to the build. Smaller details such as trees, rocks, carts, farmland, and other little assets really help out adding mood and atmosphere to a build. Finally, as the final asset, we're gonna build a dragon, of course. Dragons just make me so happy. But surprisingly, building a smaller sized dragon like this is actually more difficult than building a big one for me. There's just less blocks to work with, and small mistakes show up a lot easier. But once this dragon is complete, it is the final part to this build. Let's go check out the final result. Hello everyone! Thank you so much for watching my time-lapse and cinematic. They were so much fun to make, and this build overall has a lot of details included in it that I really wanted to show off to you in-game. So I've put on my absolute favorite shader pack, Sidlurs shaders. I'll link to them down in the description below if you'd like more information on that. And let's get started with a little tour through this build, shall we? We're starting here on this mountain trail. I imagine if you're a traveler coming through this very dangerous area, you'd have to come through this mountain path right here. Walk through the valley and then finally stumble upon the castle and small little farming village right here. If you manage to make it this far, of course. But you're greeted with a beautiful view if you do manage to make it through the mountains. I imagine that if this terrain was expanded upon, it would be quite treacherous to come any other way. However, it was just meant to be a practice piece of terrain, so you can see that it's just flat world past here. Maybe someday I'll be able to expand on it. Let's start by heading into the farming area. This area has so much atmosphere included in it. This is a fairly small farm, so it's obvious instantly that this isn't an area that's going to be used for exporting goods. The stuff that's grown here is probably kept in root cellars and saved over the winter just to feed the general population of the small village and of course the castle. Imagine that would be pretty important for the people here. It's always nice to be able to grow your own crops, and it would be impossible for them to buy any from traveling merchants, as we just talked about. It's a bit treacherous to get here. They need to be self-sufficient for sure. I like thinking of little stories like that to go along with my builds because it helps out so much with the small details, like for example details in interiors like this one. If you can think about the people who live here, why they hang out here, you can think about furniture to add, trees that need to be in places, farms, and other assets throughout the entire build that are super important. Just thinking about a little bit of story can do so much for every build. Let's head up towards this guard post now. Fortunately, there's no one guarding it at the moment as there was in the cinematic. They must be on their lunch break or something, so we should be free to just head inside. There's a lot of weapons laid around randomly in here, but this is a guard area, so I imagine that would be quite important. Storage room under the stairs, of course, and we can also travel up here where we are able to go upstairs once again to some sleeping quarters, or head across to another dining room and more sleeping quarters for the guards. I mean, imagine for a second that you're a guard here. There's not very many travelers coming through, and it's a small village, so you're very well acquainted with all of the villagers who live here. But you get to work here on this gate all day long with this type of view. I don't think I'd mind being a guard for this village. I think now it's about time we make our way up the treacherous path towards the castle. This path is not easy to climb, and I didn't want it to be. Although it's a lot easier than these steep cliffs that surround the rest of the castle, I still wanted it to be fairly treacherous. People don't just come up here for fun. They are usually on a mission if they're making their way all the way up the mountain to the castle. Once we enter the castle, in my opinion, the atmosphere completely changes. From the warm and loving area that was down below to a much more hardy and stone-bound castle. Things here are just a little bit more cold. As we can see through here, we've got quite a lot of details that would be used for defending this castle all throughout. Different storage areas and staircases taking us to all of the various walls that are all the way around this castle. I love adding little details like this and trying to imagine who would be defending this place from any potential siege. Again, this is definitely one of my favorite views of this mountain peak through this castle right here. Although, I'm not sure I can pick a favorite. It's just so epic wherever you view it from. Let's head back up onto this wall now. Through here, we've got some of the smaller huts. Anything with this sort of mushroom texture right here is sort of a hut for the workers. We've got some bunk beds and a little kitchen area, but it's just the basics. However, if we head inside the castle, things get a little bit more fancy. In through here, we've got a beautiful grand hall where people could gather to eat or have meetings. In here, we've got some more storage for that great hall. Lots of food is needed to feed this castle, even if it is a smaller one. We can then head upstairs where we've once again got a slightly fancier bedroom. And a good view of the dragon that's coming straight for us. Hopefully he doesn't want to land on this tower, that'd be awkward. Anyways, let's head back down. This castle center area right here is a really important one to me. One of the main things that I thought about when building it was, why are things here? For example, I was kind of stuck on what to put around. I was doing a whole bunch of these huts and I thought, well, maybe people just kind of live here, but in reality, that would not fill up the space quite as well as thinking of an actual function. For example, we have this well here, a very simple but necessary detail. If this castle ever was under siege and the area became not peaceful once again, it'd be very important for the people in here to be able to access water. They can't get down to the river when they're under siege, so having a well inside the castle walls is important. Another thing we have along that wall of thought is a weaponsmith. I wanted to have this sort of more unique building. You can see I didn't overhang the roof here, and this is an idea that I got from an amazing YouTuber, Mythical Sausage. I think it fits in so well with this area, especially with the big chimney with smoke coming up, and a lava area over here for the weaponsmith to be able to do his or her work. And inside, things are pretty basic. Just some blast furnaces, storage, a little work desk, and up top, just some simple bunks. Just basic things that you would need to survive around here. Overall, I'm super happy with how this village and castle turned out. I think it was an amazing practice project on this terrain, and I couldn't be happier with it, honestly. And now for the exciting part. Since you have all been so incredibly supportive of my channel over the last couple of weeks, I wanted to give back to you by allowing you to download this full build and terrain. The link to the world download will be down in the description if you would like it. Please check it out and explore this world for yourself. It is, of course, unfortunately, only a Java Edition build, as I don't know how to switch it into Bedrock. But please, if you have Java Edition, feel free to explore it and improve upon it if you would like. And please show me if you do. Down in the description, as a little bonus, I will also add a blank slate of this terrain, as in just the mountain before I added the castle, the village, or anything else that's been added. So if you'd like to create your own castle, or sci-fi secret base, or steampunk cliff house, whatever you want, please use this terrain to do so. It's not perfect, but you know, it's not bad if you don't feel like building your own terrain. Please feel free, and I challenge you to create something on it and then send it to me. I would love to see your own creations on this terrain. Anyway, with all of that said, as usual, thank you so much for watching this video. I really do appreciate all of your support. I hope I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye, everyone!